Inside Track, the official podcast of World Athletics.
Welcome back to Inside Track with World Athletics. We're here still at the Olympic Games in Paris. It's day 7.
Day 7 already. It's going quick.
Yes, it's been amazing. I'm Sonia Richards-Ross.
And I'm Greg Weatherford. And welcome back to your go-to podcast for all of the greatest opinions, some very big opinions, and just brilliant general chit-chat about this wonderful game. We got a really, really good pod again today. I mean, all of them have been amazing. We're opening up with Laurent Meuwly as well, who is, of course, the coach of Femke Bol. And the national team coach for all sprints, relays, everything else. The man has got a monumental job here. So it can be interesting getting his insight.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear from him. I also cannot wait to have my old friend on the show, Ashton Eaton, one of the greatest decathletes of all time, 2-time Olympic champion. He's going to be in the house. And listen, if you're just discovering our pod, which I don't know why it would have taken you so long, be sure to go back and check out our previous episodes. They've been really, really good.
And one of the things you're going to find in those previous episodes is Ask me anything. You get it straight away. I literally afterwards look at you and you know where to be. With me, you look at me and go, I don't know what we're doing at this point. I'm so lost.
Ask me anything. One of my favorite parts of the show where you guys get to chime in, ask us questions about anything happening here in Paris. A reminder, over the next 4 days, we got only 4 days left. I'm going to miss you when it's all over.
No, just like send daily.
What's going on with you?
She'll forget me as soon as this is done.
Never. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. And remember, if you're watching on YouTube or listening wherever you listen to, also go to the World Athletics website, worldathletics.org/inside track.
Yes, and yes. All right, let's get into it, my friend.
Let's do it.
Yesterday was a huge day. So I would say the 1500 had to be one of the most highly anticipated races of these championships,
Absolutely.
Right? We had never seen that kind of trash talk, and it was like sprinter trash talk. Yeah. You should have seen the piece we ran on NBC. It was epic. Like seeing them back and forth and seeing them training. I was like on the edge of my seat.
It's so exciting. And that's what's really nice is that Josh being British and me being British, we don't really see that from British athletes on that level.
He pulled it out of him. I don't
Absolutely.
think that's not Josh's disposition. I think that Jakob just, eventually he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to just let you keep talking. I got to say something too.
Exactly that. And to be fair to Josh, I mean, maybe they sort of were running their own race and possibly the medals were as they were because of that. But Josh backed it up.
Well, I mean, the irony of it all is that the two big names did not leave with the gold medal.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
It was the young American Cole Hocker. I almost couldn't even say his name right.
I know, it's still such a shock.
Until today, I mean, you know what I mean? His name wasn't in the mix.
Absolutely.
And so our Kara Goucher, who is our distance analyst, was saying, keep an eye out for Cole Hocker if he's in the mix the last 100. And I'm like, ain't gonna be nobody in the mix. I thought those two were gonna kind of like separate from the pack.
Absolutely.
But that had to be the highlight of the night. Outside of Gabby Thomas, of course, winning for Team USA. She was more of a favorite that kind of went through and delivered, happy for her first gold medal.
Completely.
But man, the men's 1500 took the house down.
I mean, again, incredible. I was watching with Aries Merritt, a friend of both of ours.
I regret I wasn't with you guys.
And he went wild. Yeah. But interestingly, he was calling it.
He called him?
Well, yeah, only as they were sort of coming out from about 200. He was like, just watch. And obviously getting more and more animated.
Yeah.
And as we saw Jakob go slightly wide, I think, to try and block Josh.
Yeah.
And again, those two were sort of fighting it out in that way. He missed what was going to happen on the inside. But I also have to mention, I mean, 15 is obviously the highlight, but you're forgetting one of the real big events of last night. And you're looking really blankly at me. It's the men's long jump, of course, as well.
Yes.
I have to give a shout out to my jumping brothers out there.
Of course.
Because I mean, like, again, it's only the second time ever a male long jumper has managed to win back-to-back Olympic titles. So Tentonglu of Greece, who was a fantastic jumper. Yeah. It was brilliant to see that. So I'm really, really pleased because he's a great chap as well. So all in all, a brilliant night.
Yeah, and one thing too, I got to say, it would be remiss if we didn't say, and I really appreciate this, that after Jakob had talked all this trash, right? And I think as a part of his mental game, he did go on last night and send a huge congratulations to all of the athletes that finished ahead of him. And I really like that.
Absolutely.
I really like that because it's not personal, right?
No,
I don't think. I think it's more about the sportsmanship of it all. So great race, guys. Thank you guys so much for delivering. It was amazing. Yeah.
Right, well, we should get ready for the first guest.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, come on, move on over here.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Little drop in.
Stay tuned. All right, so we're joined by our first guest. And before we get into it, I always like to ask people how they pronounce their names, right? Because, of course, it's, we're all from different places, so I might say it a little bit differently than, you might say it. So can you pronounce your name for us? Because I don't know if my co-host got it right when he said it.
Laurent Meuwly.
Yeah.
So this is your problem. And the issue is anyway for me, being British, is that we butcher most other languages in the world, and we're not taught in school enough. So any policymakers out there need to sort out languages in schools. So I would have said it as Meuwly.
Yeah, that's usually when people ask me the question, that's what I would say. But you told me to say how I would pronounce it.
Yeah, well, how you would pronounce it, exactly how it should be pronounced.
Because I think internationally, the easiest would be something like Laurent Meuwly or something like that.
Yeah, but it's like, there's a W, so I would say Meuwly, but you say. Say it again?
Yeah, French pronunciation, there are a lot of sounds which are a combination of letters. So
well, listen, we want to move past that because you have so many interesting things to talk about. You are here with the Dutch team. And I mean, first of all, let's just start with a mixed relay. And how you guys showed up and showed out on one of the second nights of the second night of the championship. What was that like for you guys? We saw like the Dutch house, like it was insane. After Femke Bol, ran 47.93 on the anchor. I'm probably jumping ahead of myself here. Forgive me, but
no, absolutely.
That has been one of the races of the competition for me. So tell me from your perspective, putting that team together, what that was like.
Yeah, it was not easy. I think we have to go back to Tokyo. There were a lot of discussions between the heats and the final. USA, Dominican Republic disqualified, then reinstated after a long night. And we finished fourth, just out of the medals. Eugene, we finished second, 30 centimeters behind gold, and in Budapest, Femke is falling 5 meters before the finish line in a battle with USA. So our story with mixed relay was not the easiest so far, and also therefore we didn't come with a lot of expectations. We wanted to medal, of course, but we have not been speaking about gold. The goal was really to try to get a medal. And the race went perfectly, and the medal became gold.
Well, I find that really interesting as well, because obviously with some of the other countries look at the mixed at the moment and see it as another opportunity to bring in extra athletes or other athletes that may not feature, say, in the men's or women's 4x4. To have Femke that's just seems to just be able to run all the time and run so incredibly fast. What's that conversation from, I guess, the national level, but obviously from the coach, from your point of view, with her?
Every time it has been not only one discussion. I think before Tokyo, before Eugene, before Budapest, even in Rome at Europeans, we also ran the mixed before to start the championship or the individual events. We have many discussions during the season. At different point of the season to see where we are, how healthy she is, what are the perspectives, how the others are, if they are competitive or not. And we took this time the decision some days after London Diamond League that she would participate. And in the meantime, between London and Paris, we lost our fastest man, Marvin Bonavazia, who ran 44.8. He was third in Rome. But still, we had two really young boys who ran for the first time on this level, 20 and 24 years old. We did a great job also.
So what fascinates me, first of all, is, and I don't know if you caught this too, Greg, when he was breaking down the timeline of the mixed relays, he said that the Netherlands lost by 30 centimeters. I was like, only a coach would be that specific on a loss, and also just what it meant to that team. I got to talk to you about Femke. Well, I say Femke, but it's Femke. How do you say it?
Femke.
So Femke.
I got that right, everybody, just so we're
Femke, yeah.
Femke.
It's like an accent thing, right? Can we say Femke, but Femke? And I want to get it right because, that matters to me. I have loved watching her compete for a very long time and very high on her. There's something very special about her. Obviously, I think she's a generational talent. Running under 51 seconds over hurdles is just mind-blowing to me as a 400-meter runner. Those are times that we thought only athletes without hurdles can run. What makes her so special?
Yeah, I think, first of all, she's a great competitor and she loves to compete. That's why we see her often indoor, outdoor, flat, hurdles, relays. What makes her special, I think, compared to other athletes on that level, is probably not on the physical part or genetic, but it's more in the mental part, in the commitment she has to high performance culture, high performance lifestyle. She is really well prepared. She's thinking ahead. She's thinking about all details, and she makes sure that everything is ready for plan A, B, C, D, not to get surprised by anything. And she always wants to improve everything, and that compensates probably a difference in talent or physical abilities with other athletes.
Real quick, I'm sorry, just a quick follow-up question. How does she see the rivalry between her and Sydney? Does she enjoy that?
Yeah, she would enjoy it if they would be competing against each other.
Wow,
because
at
at the moment we are speaking a lot about the rivalry, but
we don't see it enough.
The last time was 2 years ago, and the time before 3 years ago. So she knows all the other competitors on the 400 hurdle scene much better than Sydney. Of course, she respects Sydney a lot and what she achieved so far. But we are really excited that we are about to compete against her again.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's been called as one of the events of the entire games. Now, from your point of view as well, it's obviously, you're not just coaching her, you have a group as well. And I always find this really fascinating in a squad where you've got an absolute superstar, and then you've got the rest of which are obviously great athletes as well. How does that dynamic work for you in particular, but the squad dynamics?
I think the squad dynamics is something really, really important and part of our success individually and in relay programs. And it's something which is really important for me. I've been working some years in basketball also. I like this spirit from team sport. And 400 hurdles is something really hard. Sanya knows something about it. So it's always better when you can share this with other athletes. And also I have different type of athletes. I have those who are better in speed, those like Femke who are more endurance athletes. And every session, one athlete is helping another one, because that's where he's strong in the gym or in the speed. And Femke is leading the pack when it's about endurance. And also when I arrived in the Netherlands, the same than I did in Switzerland, I tried to start with relay programs, because I think in small countries, that's the first step on the global stage to participate to Olympics, to be in an Olympic final, and then maybe to battle for the medals. And then those athletes that you have in your relay squads, 1, 2, 3 of them are going to develop into very good individual athletes. It's really hard in Netherlands, in Switzerland, to have a lot of very talented 400-meter athletes. So I start always with the relay philosophy, and then I try to have the best of them developing into successful individual athletes.
I was going to say on that as well, just you then come to the games, obviously you've got the squad and everything else, and then you take on the extra work as well of being a national team coach. So first of all, do you ever sleep? And what pressure does that add? Because again, I guess at times that's going to take time away from the group and from your athletes directly, and of course the absolute superstar that is Femke. So how do you manage that, basically?
Yeah, but maybe to come back to the previous question, this goes also the same direction. I think not every very talented or successful athletes could train in our group, because I got, of course, some requests from other athletes, some athletes very successful who wanted a change. But I always explained to those athletes, look, you had so far a one-on-one situation with your coach.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen.
Right.
You are going to be part of a group. Femke is part of a group. Of course, she gets the attention she requires, or her status requires, or her level. But if you are a spectator of a training session, you cannot find her if you don't know who she is. And this is also really important for me to make clear when an athlete wants to join the group. He needs to understand the group dynamic and to accept also that this is going to be shared. The time is going to be shared between the athletes. And they understand, of course, the hierarchy. They are not stupid. But it's not like there is training with Femke at 9 and then at 10:30 the rest of the group is coming. It doesn't happen like this. So I think that could not fit to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to make it clear from the beginning.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I like that a lot, because especially in the United States, where there are all these like groups where they're, like obviously they're superstars who train amongst other athletes. You will see that where the coaches have separate training times for different athletes. But like you and from in my training group as well, I really enjoyed training with everyone. Like I used to train with the college kids and stuff, and I'd run with the boys, and that would help and push me. So I think that's a really unique environment to cultivate, but you got to have the right people in the group, because I always feel like one bad apple can spoil the bunch, right? And
but I do feel also that it's the coach's responsibility to bring this culture and to be clear at the beginning what the values and what the culture is, and then to educate the athletes. Because it's too easy to say, oh, those athletes, they are not ready to work together or this and that, but I think the coach has a role to play there. Obviously, I see a lot in the US or in Jamaica or so that two very good athletes try to train with each other, but then when the one who was less good becomes better than the one who was established, the problem starts.
Of course. Like, hold on now. I brought you here to make me
slow down. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm coaching also Nadine Visser, who was in the short hurdles this morning, and we have been contacted by Pia, the European champion from Poland, who also wanted to train to try to close the gap with the Americans and the Jamaicans. So now we have probably the two of the best Europeans training together. Very often we do all the training camps to try with this competition in training to come closer to the Americans.
Yeah, I think just on that group side of things, I just think because a lot of people just assume groups are made up because of your saying getting the right people and everything else. My group made up into the London Games. I had a female javelin thrower, a 4 hurdler, 4 flat, pole vaulter, long jumper in me. And then we had a sort of sprint offshoot of that as well. And we all trained together. We did obviously the individual stuff for the technical side of things, but personalities and everything else worked so well. And out of that, we had multiple medalists, national records out of it. And again, we were not all the same event, not the same thing, but it worked. And that's the difference. And I think a lot of people look into it go, that can't work because you're not all doing the same thing, but it can. Get the right people together, it can absolutely work.
No, honestly, we could talk to you all day because the insights are just so incredible, and we can both see why you're having so much success on the track. But we're going to switch up and we're going to ask you to join us for Predict the Podium.
Do you know, I was nearly about to say ask me anything for a second there because I've been getting so excited by getting that on time.
We only have 3 segments in the show, Coach, and every time I go for him to say it with me, he can't remember which one it is. So I don't know if he'd work in our high performing group. You know, he might not work in our group.
It's that endurance that you've got there. Like for me, it's just I can't focus anything more than about 6 seconds at a time. That's the long jump time. That's it.
Exactly. All right, Coach, can we have you predict the podium for the women's 400-meter hurdles?
I'm not allowed to bet. Am I allowed to predict?
You can predict. There's no money here. It's a safe space. It's just us. No one here but just us.
So I can also not lose nothing. That's
exactly,
interesting.
Exactly.
I think in third position, I think Clayton.
Okay, Rochelle.
I think we may have a very, very similar one again this time. So,
Jamaica.
Just double check what I'd written down.
Then I think second McLaughlin and first Femke Bol.
All right.
Well, that's what I called it. I know we're sort of doing one as like just what me and you thought. We're not going to jump in on this one because we just feel like you're so much expert. Of course.
Yeah, we feel like this should be your show.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You're more prepared for this. But
we're close.
So we have Femke first, and I keep going back to Femke because in America we say Femke, but you guys say Femke.
Femke.
And I want to change that on our broadcast. So Femke, Sydney, and Clayton, the podium for the 400 meter hurdles. Let me tell you something. What I'm most excited about is that I think that we may see these two women go under 50 seconds because the track is so fast. And like you said, we haven't seen them lock up in a while. Either way, I know times don't matter. It's all about the medal here. But can you imagine if they were to go under 50 seconds?
You're saying, can we imagine?
If it's the podium, I predict it's not going to be under 50 seconds.
No?
Oh, that's interesting.
No. I think if it's under 50 seconds, then Sydney is winning.
That's interesting. There you heard that here first. With very quickly though, with obviously the way that this is going, how fast it's getting, where do you see the ceiling times wise in this event?
That's really hard to say because if you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have a completely different answer. So,
well, with the tech that's changing, obviously the shoes, the tracks, whatever else. I mean,
Femke improved 3 seconds in 3 years.
That is
so you can imagine, and she has exactly the same shoes.
Oh, there you go. That's an interesting one.
Oh, that is very interesting.
Because her sponsor came out with those shoes, in COVID time in 2020, 2021, and they were among the first with this technology. And she is wearing, with small adjustment, the same spike. So by her, it's really a development. She ran with those spikes 53.70 something. Mm-hmm. So now she's almost 3 seconds faster. Still with the same spikes.
Wow. Yeah, that is very interesting.
Well, there's so much talk about tech and how much it's helping, but then that's a really interesting.
It is.
But I do think that the track in Tokyo, for instance, because it took her more than a year to improve the time she ran there, although she was a much better athlete, I do think that the track was really fast there.
Yes.
I think it's still a bit early to judge this one, but probably from what I saw in the 400 meter flat, men and women, you needed 50.8 to go to the semifinals.
Exactly. And they were running 43 in the semis for the men.
So it's not one outstanding athlete. It's really the density.
Exactly.
The average is running better.
So you're saying basically it's going to probably just drop down to something silly like 47 or something.
No, 47.
I'm joking.
No, I think it's possible that someone run sub 50 seconds, but we also need to see what Sydney and Femke are going to do the coming years because
it'd be so good to see.
They might have also at one point see all in this event and would like to explore something
400,
different.
Yeah.
Or
and can you see? So Femke might move up to the 800 exclusively on Inside Track.
Clip it. We need that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are wishing you all the best. Congratulations on the success you've already had on the track, and we're wishing you more great hardware for the Netherlands. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Well, that was interesting.
Really, really interesting.
Well, first of all, I was so enamored by him, right? He seems so smart.
Absolutely.
So well vested in his athletes. So I really, really enjoyed the conversation. But what was a little bit shocking to me was obviously he's going to pick Femke for first. If my coach came on, he better predict me for first.
Absolutely.
That's what we're training for, right?
I am leaving you.
Exactly. But what was interesting was when we said if the time were to go to 49 seconds, he then said that would be Sydney's gold medal.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. But what I like about that is that he's a realistic coach.
Absolutely.
Because he sees Femke every day.
Yeah.
And the truth is, based on the times that your athletes are able to produce in practice, what they're most likely capable of running. Yeah. And I had a coach once who set me up like, oh, you're going to run 48 seconds. And I tried and I blew up so badly. I ran almost 52. Yeah. Right? Because in her mind, she said, oh, just go through. And I wasn't ready for that. So it's actually better that your coach says, hey, this is the split you're going to come through and you could run 50 point, but you try to run on 49 pace. You might not get a medal.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was really cool that he has full faith in her if the race is where they have been in the past. But if Sydney's ready to do something that outrageous, even he has to say.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that also gives a little nod, to how people view 4 athletes a lot of time as like a speed-based 2-4 runner And then now it seems like potentially for eight runner.
Yeah.
And you would associate generally somebody who's a forerunner who's obviously very, very fast on the flat as well, that they're going to be the one that are going to push the times like that.
Right.
And obviously Femke's slightly different that way because she's still so close. But she, as we're saying, clearly sees it as it is. If it gets to that speed, she's not as quick in that way. But obviously, she might be becoming an 800 meter runner at some point. So I mean, like, it shows, doesn't it? And that's I just find that absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. And lastly, before we get Ashton in here, I got to say this. One of the things that really stuck out to me that he said, we're calling this a rivalry.
Yeah.
But we don't really see them race.
Yes, exactly. So that was, as soon as he said it, I was like, that's interesting, because that's been discussed within the camp, right?
Of course,
and you would expect it to be on one level, but that's clearly a hot topic.
Of
because
course.
it's really prevalent in his mind at the moment, and they're talking about it. And Femke, and I appreciate it as well, she probably does want to race her.
Listen, how do you prepare for someone who you never get to take a jab at? You know what I mean? It's like you're literally shadow boxing somebody that you never see. And so, wow, I thought that was a really strong point. He also mentioned how much she loves to compete. So I know she would love to compete against her. The last time they competed was 2 years ago, he said.
See, I don't know about you. I love competing against
Me
the best
too.
in the world. I literally
I used to line up every week.
Exactly. And again, jumps is obviously smaller events generally, and sadly it is. But the guys, we had to compete against each other because that was the only option.
Yeah.
And I loved it. You win a comp, you're thinking, I've beat the best.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a great way of doing it.
Yeah. All right, well, we got more of the best coming in.
We
Ashton
have.
Eaton,
Let's
he's
go.
here. All right, so we have track royalty on the couch. One of the greatest to ever do it. And more London gold.
Yes.
More London gold.
Ashton Eaton to everyone.
Ashton Eaton. Woo. All right. So, I mean, I'm just delighted for you to be here because obviously we compete at the same time. So I used to watch you compete. I used to admire you so much. But I'm going to start with a story because I got to keep my co-host here humble. Remind us about that time where you beat the great Greg Rutherford in the long jump. I mean, it was by 1 centimeter, but you still beat him.
Do you remember that comp?
I'm trying to remember exactly where was that one?
Mount Sac.
What's funny is that you'll never forget.
Do you know
He's
what?
had lots of wins.
Okay,
You'll never forget.
Context this, right?
Okay.
So
That's true.
I started off as a sprinter in my career,
Yeah.
right? So I was 100 predominantly.
Should have been a decathlete.
And I don't know about that. Broke down
What
just
if the
doing
greatest
long.
says you should have been?
Well, maybe. Hey, fancy it? Should we go? Let's get to the track. Let's get going. Coaching. And, no, but it was one of those things. I used to love beating sprinters, right? So if I'd ever line up, and sometimes I'd turn up to a comp, I'd do the jumps, and then they'd say, we've got a lane in 100, do you want to do it? And I'd do it. So every time I'd beat a sprinter, I'd take great joy in it, because we know what sprinters are like, don't we? I mean, you are a borderline sprinter as well, really. But there's a lot of, and of course, what I mean is like, we generally say ones and twos, but you fall on, you're the same. You're all the same. But it's that thing where it's all that bravado. So I used to love rubbing it in if I'd beaten them. And then a certain situation, do you remember it, or?
I do remember Mount Sac, and I remember jumping against you because I was like, this is sweet. But I actually don't remember the win because
you beat me.
Often it's like I'll jump and then I have to go do another thing.
Right. Yeah.
Not to like discredit the event, but it was just like, can we just,
I got killed. I'm just going to say, like, the thing is, but it's basically because I'd always rip all the sprinters that I'd beaten them. And then, decathletes just come in and, like, absolutely made you look stupid. And I was trying so, but it's testament to how good now. I mean, you are literally one of the greatest ever. So I did sort of turn around and say, I mean, I'm like an average long jumper and I'm beating you at sprinting. I mean, I've got like the greatest ever beat me. So I'm happy
did
to
we
take that
actually
out.
jump far that day? Like, was it like an 8 meter? Or was it like a 7?
No. I think you went 8:07 and I went 8:06, something like that. So I mean, it's
decent.
respectable.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But that was painful for me. It was amazing to always see you appear in events like that because, again, it's always an interesting one. In the US, I find it absolutely fascinating that you produce some of the greatest athletes ever, but the sport is never quite as big as it should be. And I always wonder why that happens. But the fact that you would turn up to Mount Sac, I know it has a great history, and all track fans are going to know it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating for you. Like, what is that like for both of you in a way, to be in a country that you are the powerhouse, but maybe not given as much of the, not respect's the wrong word, but the props that you deserve? Because I mean, like in the UK, I mean, a lot of UK love, not gonna lie. But no, it's one of those, it's amazing.
Take that song?
Yeah. You're our guest. You first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think because we've grown up that, or at least for me, I grew up that way. It just is what it was, and it's very obvious. We get overshadowed. Our sport gets overshadowed a lot by the NBA and the NFL. And we talk about it a lot. However, it's very clear that I think things are changing now, and I think the reason that it was that way was because we had the every 4 year thing, the Olympics, and these other sports had the every year thing, but also because the stories that were told were usually controlled by the brands for these athletes. And if you had camera time, which again was more for these bigger sports, you had personalities and you could get to know the athletes better. For track athletes, it just wasn't like that. But now with the way media is, it's very clear that is starting to be like that. And we obviously have a lot of characters and just great stories from kind of, tragedy to triumph and all sorts of things. So, for me personally, sorry I just ran here because I was in the wrong spot.
You look fantastic. Don't you worry.
And wiping my face. But yeah, I get asked this question a lot. I'm probably more of a humble, downplayed person. Maybe somebody like Noah who would be sitting in this chair would be pissed off about it.
Or Sanya.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Yeah.
No. I tend to agree with you. I think that I was always the same way. It's like I have too many things that I have to worry about. So putting something on my plate that I have no control of just didn't make sense. So I just made the best of what it was. I think obviously we know every 4 years we were going to have center stage. So I wanted to make sure that I made those moments count and matter. And I think now from where I sit, and I think Ashton is the same way, it's like, what can we do now to help to give athletes the opportunities that we didn't have, So, I think, I'm with Ashton, I think it's changing and that's exciting to me. But I do want to kind of bring it back, Ashton, to when you were at your best, right? And just, I was always so, what's the word?
Enamored, amazed.
I said enamored already, so I was trying to come up with another one, but let's just say amazed or intrigued. I was always so intrigued by the way you competed, and because I feel like you were one of those athletes who you took all of you to the track. So I felt like you were extremely smart, very pragmatic, very competitive, and that always showed up to me when you were competing. Interesting. Take me inside the mind of Ashton Eaton when you were you someone who when you were doing the pole vault, were you okay, were the measurements perfect? How did you train and how did you compete?
That's interesting. The way that I trained, I think was very, even if it was like that on the outside, I think I was totally driven by intuition. But I also tried to do things that made sense, if that makes sense. And what's a good example of this? Like at practice, I'd be doing the shot put, over and over again, one of my worst events. And I was kind of getting pissed off because I was not improving that much. And I said, let's just try something different. This is not working. And this is where I kind of came up with a shuffle thing that made me throw further that a lot of decathletes are like, hey, I'm going to try that now. And so maybe from the outside, it looks like, man, Ashton is smart because he's doing all this analysis and coming up with something new. But it was more just, I think what we all do, which is what can I do to get better? And I had all these different events to kind of experiment with. Maybe that's the best word.
I find that really interesting. So you personally are doing it and saying, I need to change it to this. Because obviously in track, and athletes watching will just assume that a coach will be the one. And obviously coaches are throwing ideas and whatever else to try.
Right.
But you're actively going, no, this is what we're going to now, we're changing it to. This is what I'm changing it to because for me, this is what works. That's a strong personality as well, that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I was very open to experimentation. I treated my approach to track like a science experiment, if you will. And I just didn't want to assume that I had all the answers. Yeah. I tried the spin, gave it a fair shot in the shot put again, for example, didn't really work that well. Tried some other things. And the thing that kept giving me better results, I would kind of go down that path. And I tried this early on when I was an athlete. And by the time I got to, the end of things, I would whittle it down to something. But I always also, I think what you might have saw, and maybe I think what gave me an advantage was I did take in as much as I possibly could. Yeah. So when I'm out there on the track, I would be watching my competitors intensely, and I would see even though his ankle isn't taped, he's not good. You know what I mean? And like that would just be a piece of information I'd have.
Would you ever like go, hey mate, how's your ankle going?
No, but
would you ever make him aware of it?
No. But what I would do is I would say, okay, if I feel good, I'm going to try to own this high jump, knowing that he most likely is hurt and is not going to. And sometimes I'd be right. Or we just chat as decathletes, and they kind of say like, hey, how's, how are you doing? How are you? It's like, I got a thing. And I'm like, okay, good to know.
See, it's interesting as well though, because you watch like the multis, and obviously we all know how it ends at the end of a champs, everybody holding hands and clapping, doing the lap of honor as a group.
Yeah.
The only event that does it, and maybe on some level everybody else should get a bit of love across the events, but it is amazing to see that. But then obviously it's competition still. Maybe people forget that at times. It's maybe not as friendly as we all think. And there is the odd thing of like, I got you, pal. Your ankle's hurt. That's really interesting to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. Maybe athletes did it to me, but it was more like, this isn't a malicious thing. It's more just the information. You know what it boils down to, Sonia? I was obsessed with what I did.
Yeah.
And that obsession just made me constantly be so tuned in. So I appreciate you saying that. I think I just tried to bring it all and get as much out of my body as I possibly could.
Yeah, I could always tell that. So, we were talking about 2012 and just how incredible those games were. Not just because all three of us won gold, but because they just really were. Probably a little biased. I have good memories. And you on home soil, so I mean, double great for you. But what have you thought so far of the games here? Like, what do you?
London was great.
Yeah.
By a lot of standards. Rio was good. This is back to great, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If London was a 10, like so far, even with the performances, I don't want to say this to Paris, but I think it's like a 9.5. And I don't know why. I was going to say 9.5.
Yeah, I bet you were.
I don't know.
I'm maybe going to go 9.
Yeah.
But
and it's things like this, the fans staying till the very end.
Yes.
For the decathlon like victory lap.
Yes.
Yeah. That was something that happened in London.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something like, and the thing that I think made London a 10 is things like Super Saturday that just absolutely floored the nation, really. So
please continue.
Yeah, I know, right? I remember just being there like, this is amazing.
It was amazing.
But also things, and I think I did something like this on X or Twitter, which was in the track stadium, 200-meter freestyle swim was going on. Leon Marchand was winning, and everybody's going nuts. They had to pause the race. We're all in the stands like, what's going on? There's not a French runner in this race. And what happened was everybody started pulling out their phones and watching Marchand win.
Wow.
And 70,000 people in the stadium were all going nuts. And they had to pause the men's decathlon 400 until they stopped cheering.
I hadn't realised that happened. I didn't realise that. Did you? I missed
No.
that.
It was unbelievable.
But it shows the power of sport, right?
Yeah, but that's exactly the power of sport. And I thought, we're all getting brought together here.
Yeah.
Like that guy's in the stadium across the street, but we're in here cheering for him.
That's super cool.
And then we look into 4 years after this point. I mean, I don't want to go to, but for you guys as well.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's coming home, as we would say in the UK. Well, for England in particular.
Any tips?
What's the what's the excitement? I mean, I expect both of you are going to get yourself ready again, and you're going to be there on the start line.
I was going to say, Ashton, you retired too early, so I think if any of us were going to come back, you retired young.
I think that just like an athlete, there's a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
That's my sense.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit nervous, just like an athlete with a lot of expectation to host an Olympic Games. I'm not playing a big part at all, but just, and I don't know what it is. Did you feel that way?
I mean, from the athlete's point of view, it was a really fascinating thing. It was the be all and end all from the point of view of a career, because you're looking at it as the one opportunity to truly solidify yourself as a great in your home nation.
Yeah.
And for me, bear in mind, but when it was announced 2005, I was a young athlete. I mean, I wasn't competing on some of the major things. None of that.
Yeah.
My hope was maybe just to make the Olympic Games and then go to Beijing. And then all of a sudden, it's now, I'm here to win the Olympic Games in London. But it was fascinating as well, I think, maybe because I didn't have enough of a grasp of it. You don't realise how big that is. And I would say to any of the US athletes that are going to be competing in it and you do well, wow, it's a roller coaster afterwards. Like
Yeah.
you cannot. I mean, you guys know what it was like, of course, but like just in your home country. And I think we were talking earlier about maybe sports like athletics not being appreciated enough in the US. Tell you what,
After
in LA,
2028.
wow,
Yeah.
that's
It's
going to
be huge.
skyrocket.
Yeah. So what are you up to now these days? I know you're a dad. Is your family here with you?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
My 4-year-old son, Ander, our 2-year-old daughter, Elian, and Brienne, we're here. It's absolutely bananas. That's why I probably look very tired.
You don't. You look great.
I just want to note on that very quickly. Sanya's had her family here. They've just gone home. You've got.
That's awesome.
I have managed to escape it entirely.
Yes.
So poor Susie's at home at the moment, looking after all the
Susie,
kids. And I'm here like, I'm just, just going to go hang out with some friends
It's
for a bit.
really hard work here, Susie, by the way.
Thank you. We are clipping that bit out, even if it's just for me.
Susie, when he gets home, he's on
right.
full duty for a week.
We're not clipping that bit out.
No, it's been fantastic to experience, and the reason that we decided to come here is because we made a commitment since missing Tokyo to never miss an Olympic Games again if we can help it, and just make it a family thing.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because the Olympics taught me how powerful sport is, but how great this event is for the whole world. Yeah. Everybody in the world is here. You look at like all these political issues that we have, but in that dining hall, you will have Syria, you will have Iraq, you will have like countries in conflict. And it's kind of good, we're just doing the sport thing. And
Sport brings people together, right?
Yeah.
And it really does.
And I was cheering for Marchand. I'm like, let's go, man.
Absolutely.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And everybody was cheering for Mondo.
We had it the other day as well. We had Daley Thompson here, and of course, an absolute legend of
Must have been
your
laughing
sport.
a lot.
Well, there's a lot of laughing, but he was saying the same thing. He said he was listening to the national anthem, of the French national anthem, about 15 minutes before, because apparently the crowd just burst into spontaneously singing it. And he was like, "You'd have given me a French shirt, I'd have got to compete for France at that
100%.
point." But that shows sport genuinely does bring people together.
Yeah.
And we'd mentioned this before, but there's been talk in the UK about, is the Olympics an important sporting event anymore? And you're going, are you kidding me? I mean,
was
typical
thinking the
Brits
same
that are now
thing.
deciding
Come
that
on.
they want to question it. But it shows, doesn't it? And
It's one of the most important events in the world. It's if you think of the things that bring the whole globe together, you have the Postal Service, the internet, and the Olympics.
there we are.
Well, keep it simple.
Name another one.
No, there you go. Well, I think that's probably the perfect place to
Yeah.
to end that. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, mate. Like it's
you.
it's so good to see you. So good to have this chat, and
Yeah.
we're looking forward to the next time. Next time we can sit down and go through it all.
We're going to host you in the States.
That's
Perfect.
right. Yes.
Am I welcome?
Oh my goodness.
Dude,
yeah.
Can I come and hang out at the house?
Well, listen, I think all three of us
Fully
should
invited.
host.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
there we
we
are.
can
She's
host
trying to
it.
get rid of me already.
No, I see. No. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Ashton
Ronnie.
Eaton.
Really appreciate it. Loved it.
Oh, that was great. And I love when legends come back to the sport and they get as excited about being here as they were when they were competing. So that was fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's just a good guy. And for
Yeah.
his entire career, being in and around, seeing him, it's nice to see. I've not seen him in absolute age as well, so
Yeah.
it was lovely. I enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
so did I. All right, are you ready, my friend?
I'm ready.
It's time for
Ask Me Anything. Whee! I love how in sync we now are.
Yeah,
Like, just call me
perfect.
Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. We got to ask the fans that are listening and watching, what would our group name be?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
we got to
great
take a
one.
picture. We got to do a cover of our album and figure out what our group name would be.
I like that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are. Watch out for that.
Yeah, it's
Get the
coming-
good names
coming
in.
soon.
Clean names
Clean
as well. I know
names.
what a lot you are like.
All right, do you have yours ready or do you want me
I'm
to go
ready.
first?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you go
yeah.
ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. Right. So this one comes from a certain Mr. Fox, and it says, "Today, roles reversed. Could you run a 400 meters better than Sonya's long jump?" So basically, would you,
Like right now, like
Yeah,
not in our prime.
no, right now. I mean, I'll be telling you, even in my prime, I wasn't finishing on 400 meters.
Yes, you could.
At least you ran 45 meters and jumped into a pit. I mean, like,
But
and
you
that was
could
hard.
physically finish the 400 though. I mean, you wouldn't be fast, but you could finish it, right?
I mean, I don't know.
What
I've never
was
done
quick
it.
question? What was the longest distance you would run in practice?
120s, the old 150.
You're joking, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You never ran a 300?
No, I trained for the event. I ran 45 meters. There was never a point I could rep rapid 120s, but like there was just no need to push.
But
past that.
do you think that may have helped you to not have so many injuries if you had better endurance?
No, because there was never really a period where endurance was
The problem?
Especially speed endurance that way. Yeah, that was never the issue for me.
That's shocking to me. I thought every athlete at least ran some 2s and 3s.
No, I mean, I did as a kid. And obviously when I was like coming through in the world of athletics, I'd run 1s, 2s. I mean, I started as a sprinter, right? So I was a 100 meter runner. So, and I say runner rather than sprinter because I wasn't quite quick enough, hence why I was a long jumper. But it's one of those things that you start with all of those types of things. And to be honest as well, I think probably because technically my running technique was so poor until I joined Dan Path that he had to sort of undo everything. Right. So then when I was doing longer runs, I used to get a lot of injuries and problems.
Yeah, because you kind of felt like
so you
your
have
form
to be careful with it.
Yeah, okay.
So,
well, that's interesting. You learn something new every day on the pod, even as the host. So listen, I'm just going to have to break it to you. I think I would be better in the long jump than you would be in the 400 because here's why too. Okay. I competed in the long jump in high school.
I think I've heard this talked about with you before.
Yeah, I competed in 5 events in high school and won all 5 my senior year. I mean, but who's bragging about?
I mean, I mean, you did bring it up, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. So I like jog.
You don't know. Come on, tell the folks. They asked the question.
I'm thinking right now, though. Right now, this is the thing.
I could do a better long jump. If we were to convert it on the points table, I would get more points for my long jump than you would get for your 400. Come on.
Somebody gets access to the track.
It's on. I will long jump any day. Now, will you run the whole 400 for us?
I'm backing myself now. I can run a 5K now, so like I've turned into a bit of a yoga.
All right,
do a bit of yoga.
All right, well, who do we need to call? I mean, it's just the Olympic Stadium. I mean, it should be easy, right? Somebody has somebody in their call.
I don't know, maybe like 8:30 in an evening session. They shh, everybody. The real events are now beginning.
Exactly.
And just me and nobody will see me in lycras anymore. That's for sure.
All right, so
So it's a draw. So basically, we back each other. So actually, who do you guys pick?
Yeah,
you know they're all going to pick you.
Because they're smart. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Okay, so here's my question. And this name on Instagram, I don't know, Cole by Dr. Courtney. 1 second, I've been noticing when you text, are you Dr. Gregory? Have I been not referring to you with the proper...
Well, I mean, I may or may not have an honorary degree, doctorate in science from the University of
I'm going to start calling you the honorary doctor.
Do you know what as well? One of the greatest things about when I received that, right? That anybody and everybody that I knew that had a doctorate, right? And there was about one. It's just probably my friendship group. They were so mad at me.
Of course.
They were absolutely... Because I was like, I don't know why you worked for 7 years for this. I just turned up to university and just became a doctor, mate. Like, it's easy. This world is easy. So I am a doctor, yeah. Honorary.
I saw that. I was like, wait a minute. All right, let's get back to the question and probably the real doctor here, Dr. Courtney T. She says, what were your affirmations on the track right before your races? I love this question. I love this question because I've been seeing a lot of athletes, like, do this. Like even in the gymnast, you've been seeing people been like reading their mouths on social media and stuff. I was a big affirmations person. And so I used to always tell myself before the race, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Nice. Like that was my thing. Like I would say that all the time. I'm like, anything I put my mind to, if I believe in myself, God's going to give me the strength to do it and deliver. And so that was kind of my main ones. I would have other ones. Like I would, depending on, the time of my life and what I was going through, I may have different things I would say to myself to bolster myself up. Yeah. But that was like my go-to, like main thing I used to say. Did you have that? Cause I don't know.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I used to speak to myself. I'll go funny, then I'll get slightly deeper. So I used to have this weird relationship with my body anyway, right? So I'd have this thing where I would sort of treat my body as if it was like, as you would a dog. So I'd constantly be talking to myself in between the rounds because it hurts, right? The long, especially as you get older, it hurts. Yeah. I had like back issues. I had lots of other things that were ongoing. Yeah. So I'd just be sort of like calming down. It's all right. Just give me one more jump. Like it's going to be super fine. You'll be fine. And I promise we can go on holiday after this.
This is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. You would talk to your body like your body was a dog?
Just like that. And I'd be like, just please one more. Like we've worked so
Greg,
hard for this.
Hold on. This is not normal.
Yeah, but I mean, you've not figured that out since meeting me on this?
This is not, have you talked to anybody about this?
No, but maybe somebody will want to have a word with me after this. Or they'll just cart me away. I mean,
I think we should. But after 4 more days, then I'm carting you away.
Let me get to the end at least. But I would do it like that because it was, and I think what I was trying to do was sort of trick just my mind really, because I was feeling a lot better, especially. So the Rio Olympics is a really good example of that. I should have retained my title, and that's no taking away from everybody else. Right. I think parts of that season, I was by far the best in the world.
Yeah.
And I'd had an inner ear thing. I had a whiplash injury, so I lost the hearing in my ear, managed to win the European title still off of that. I just got my hearing back, so my equilibrium was sort of sorting itself out. I then tore my groin in Arizona just before I left. So like 3 weeks out, I'm not in a great place. But, and this is where, again, I think something for athletes and just people, if you sort of that mind over matter side of things, I had a picture of my then very young son. And I basically put that on under the legs of my shorts on my leg, sort of spoke to him at that point, and then sort of went for it, managed to drag a medal out of the bag. And I don't think I had any right to win a medal on the day. The state of my body and the way I felt and the pain I was in, but I managed to then get a bronze medal. And at first I was devastated with that bronze medal. I mean, we've all been there. Exactly. You try and then put that across to other people, they can't get their head around the idea of being devastated. But actually now when I look at it and now I can put it into context, that Olympic bronze medal is probably one of the greatest achievements of my career, because I was so hurt and in a difficult place. How I won it, I don't know. So
well, that gives me chills. And the story of you putting the picture of your son under your tights brings you back to normal. So I don't think we have to cart you off after this. Yeah, that was special. Yeah, that was cool. Anyways, I just love these moments. I could talk to you forever, but unfortunately, we got to go. That's our time here today. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Inside Track. We're having so much fun. We love your feedback. We love your questions. Continue watching us and following us wherever you listen to your podcast for Inside Track.
And do remember, again, get yourself to the World Athletics website, worldathletics.org/inside track, and you're going to get all of these amazing conversations. So we're looking forward to the next.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.